positives out of it, but like 30 other teams, we're sad not to be playing this weekend, but we're looking forward to 2014. Hopefully get another shot at it.
Yeah, I know you had further to go than that game against Indianapolis, and I know it's such a great season that I think it's because it was so unexpected. I don't think the loss maybe has resonated the way it would when you have a 38 to 10 lead and that goes away. We got to talk to Coach Reid a couple of days after that, and he still was obviously wearing that pretty heavily. How tough was the way that final game came down for you to take?
Well, we've been involved in some tough games throughout the history of the franchise, but I'm sure that one's right up there at the top, particularly the circumstances, the playoffs, coming off of such a positive turnaround in 2013. Seemed like we were really in command in that game, and it just ended up not going our way that day. And to some degree, that's what makes sports great. It just wasn't great for the Chiefs that particular afternoon.
Yeah, it's great on the other side. It was a great day for Colts fans, I guess.
Exactly.
Hopefully our day is coming in Kansas City, but as I mentioned, big step. I mean, did you have any idea you could take the kind of step you took, or is that just the NFL and maybe we should have been more open to the kind of leap that you guys made in the first year?
Well, I knew we would bounce back strong in 2013 with Andy and his staff coming on board. We knew that we had some talented players. We had the 6 guys who made the Pro Bowl coming off of a 2-14 season. So there was some talent there, and it just took getting the right leader in the building, which Andy really has been that since day one. He did a tremendous job from the moment he walked in, and the guys really responded to him. So I think there was some optimism that we were going to improve significantly. Maybe the playoffs were a possibility. Certainly the 9-0 start was a big surprise for everybody and very, very exciting. So all of the credit to Andy, his staff, John Dorsey, the players. They just did a great job all the way around.
As quick as it did begin to turn, is there any way that could be a negative, that it almost builds expectations that maybe the ball did bounce your way a little bit extra, maybe the schedule did play down a little bit? Because now that's a beast. I mean, you've been through it before. You win 10 games, fans won 11. They won 12. The team wants 11, wants 12. Maybe you can want to expect too much and be out over your skis a little bit. Do you worry at all about how quick the success came, maybe backfiring?
I don't worry about it at all, but it is absolutely human nature. When you win 8 games, then you want to win 9 or more the next year. When you win 11 games, you want to win 12 or more the next year. When you make it to the first round of the playoffs, you want to go further next year. That's just the way it works. In the NFL, very few teams are on a linear trajectory to the top. That's just not how it happens. Certainly, I hope we can build on the success we had in 2013, but we also understand how competitive the league is. And there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to be shooting for the Kansas City Chiefs next year that probably thought we were going to be an easy win for them this year. So that dynamic will change, but having a coach like Andy Reid, who's been through it, who's had many years of being successful with the same franchise like he was with Philadelphia, I think gives me a lot of confidence that we've got a chance to build on what we did.
Clark Hunt is with us here in the program. You mentioned Andy Reid, John Dorsey, about a year ago, a little more than a year ago now, a year and a week or two, maybe 3 weeks. I'm trying to think of the time frame it was. You made the change and you brought these guys in. What's it been like your first year of working with them? Everything you thought? More? Less? I don't think less is going to be your answer, but the chemistry and watching it all come together, those two with you, how's it been?
Well, certainly the production speaks for itself, and the improvement that we saw in the football team, credit to both those guys. John did a terrific job bringing some guys in basically off the street who were able to contribute for us. So that part has really met my expectation. Probably what has exceeded it is what fantastic human beings these two guys are. They not only work well together, they work well with everybody in the organization. I enjoy my working relationship with them. We've just got a really, really solid team right now. When you add Mark Donovan in, who runs the business side, to the picture, I think we've got one of the best leadership groups in the National Football League.
You mentioned exceeding expectations. Did Alex Smith exceed your expectations?
Alex is somebody who had demonstrated he could play at a pretty high level with the 49ers the last several years. And certainly we were hopeful that we were going to see that version of him. And one of the things I enjoyed about the season was watching him get better as we went along, which makes sense because Andy's offense is pretty complicated, even for somebody as bright as Alex. But the longer he played in it, the longer the rest of the team was in the offense, you could see them getting better. And I think it's very exciting for 2014 to see where that offense goes.
Statistically speaking, it was his best year. I mean, how fulfilling, you've seen a lot of football, been around this organization your whole life. To see him when the defense started having its injuries and started having problems down the stretch, to see him, for lack of a better term, shoot it out with some of the biggest names in football, shoot it out with Peyton Manning, shoot it out with Phillip Rivers. Was that really kind of the final piece where you went, boy, this is our guy? If he can go toe-to-toe at a time where we're having to get points and he's getting us points, I feel real good. Was that about the time you felt comfortable? Or that's when I felt comfortable. That's why I put it to you. Was it sooner for you?
Well, you have to give him credit earlier in the year when the offense was maybe not in sync for playing smart,
right.
Not making the mistakes that someone else might have made that would have gotten us beat. Certainly as the season went along and we needed to score more points, he and the rest of the offense showed that they could do that. The NFL is a quarterback-driven league. You have to have somebody who's capable, experienced, somebody who protects the ball at that position, and Alex really showed to be all of that.
Contract-wise, he's got one more year, a guy that I would think that you'd like, the organization would like to extend, or when it maybe not now, but that it's more than just one more year with Alex Smith and the Chiefs?
Well, certainly when we made the trade for him a year ago, that was part of the thinking, and I don't think that thinking has changed. He came in, he did a nice job. We're glad to have him part of the Kansas City Chiefs and hope it ends up being longer than a 2-year stay.
When you see what's going on with quarterback contracts, Jay Cutler's contract in particular, I asked your head coach about this. That's a big deal for a guy who doesn't have any more playoff wins than Alex Smith and doesn't take care of the ball the way Alex Smith does as an owner. When I asked Andy Reid, do you sit back and go, oh, well, hold on, somebody just blew up the quarterback market. Do you react that way when you see those kind of deals elsewhere?
Well, I don't think that one contract really blew up the market. It's been a trend for a number of years with quarterback salaries increasing almost on an annual basis. And, we hope that we can have Alex as part of the franchise for the long term. I don't want to get into talking about the specifics on any kind of negotiation. But that's just part of the dynamic. As I mentioned, it's a quarterback-driven league. You need somebody talented at that position.
His salary and everybody else's have to fit under the salary cap. Are you comfortable with where you guys that you don't have quite the room you had last year? Because you got a better record too. Speaks to what you did this last offseason. But you comfortable with where you guys are going to be cap-wise?
Yeah, we don't have the flexibility that we've had the last several years, and we've been in this cycle where we've been re-signing our own guys that we drafted. And, at the end of the day, eventually we were going to get up where we were fairly tight to the cap. We're not so tight that our hands are completely tied. We'll have the room that we need to do the important things that we need to do on a going forward basis, but certainly we don't have as much flexibility as we've had in the past.
Is this next step tougher when you start to get up against the cap, when you've gone from being at the bottom to winning games? Now you got to win more. We've always talked about it that the 12 games isn't 2 more wins. It's the 10, in this case 11, if you go to 11 to 13. You got to re-win all those 11 and find a way to get 2 more. Is this really the hard work begins now?
Well, I think that's true really in any professional sport, that winning games there, when you're trying to go from say a 70-80% success rate to 80 to 90%, being successful in the playoffs and ultimately winning a championship, that's tough to do. I believe that with a professional football team, you're always in a building process. You can never say, okay, we're there, we have everything we need to be successful. Particularly in the NFL, the importance of the draft choices are key. You've got to have a good draft every year. You can't go and have a bad draft because that'll eventually hurt you, because those guys have to come up and help you. So it's just a mix of keeping the right veterans around and adding some new young guys to the mix.
We're talking right now with Clark Hunt, the chairman of the board, CEO for the Kansas City Chiefs. You had one distraction, one negative, speed bump, if you will. We'll see how it plays out long term. But Dwayne Bowe's arrest on the bye week, and Dwayne talked about it on our station and said, "Hey, let's let this thing play out." I know you have to do that as well. That has to be frustrating though, as the owner, when you have that kind of distraction in the middle of the season.
Well, I know Andy, as the head coach, doesn't want any kind of distractions for the guys. The fewer distractions that you can have as a head coach, the better off you are. So it's inevitable that you will have occasionally situations like that. So I'm sure Dwayne's sorry that it happened, and the important thing is to learn from the mistake and not repeat it in the future.
Do you sit here and watch the Super Bowl in New York in cold weather and say, when are we going to get this in Kansas City?
Well, there's been a lot of discussion about the subject of will there be another cold weather Super Bowl, and to me, a lot of it really hinged on how this weekend plays out. So far, it's been great. The weather forecast is actually very nice.
Right.
Going into
better here than Atlanta,
yes.
which is a regular stop.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Better here than a lot of markets, maybe even New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans is having it tough too.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the weather's really going to cooperate. I think that's going to set the table potentially for another cold weather Super Bowl. Certainly, if that's the case, I'd like Kansas City to be part of that discussion.
Trust me, I think we all would. We get anywhere on adding 2 more? Do you think? We heard the commissioner's address today. We're going to add 2 more teams to the playoff mix.
We've not gotten into those discussions on a formal basis. That'll happen this spring. I certainly think it's something that's possible in the near future. I couldn't predict it really for 2014 or 2015, but I think long term it's something that makes sense. Obviously,
because your dad, I remember talking to your dad. He likes 16, which is where I'm at, but 14 gets us on that road.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And the league has been in a mode over time, slowly adding playoff games. And I think we're really getting to the point where I think the fans, I think the players would embrace adding 2 more games. So I hope it's a discussion that we get into in depth.
Did you like the Pro Bowl, the changes that were made there?
I really did, because I thought it was one of the most competitive Pro Bowls that I've seen in years. I'd have a hard time picking out one that was really more entertaining. Now, part of the entertainment was every time you looked, there was a guy with a red helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were doing something good.
Right. Maybe too good. When DJ's popping Jamal Charles, that's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly right. I think we all held our breath on that one. But they were just playing hard. I think the format caused guys to play with some pride, and that's a positive for the game. I've not had a chance to talk to our players yet who were there. I want to do that. I want to hear what they thought about the experience and the change in format. But certainly as a spectator, I thought it was a huge positive.
Are you worried at all around here at the Super Bowl that the price of the tickets on the Super Bowls are down? Is that just a product of the weather? That's one thing you have to live with?
Well,
that's a secondary market anyway.
Yeah, the secondary market, I think you have to look at really the last few months, because for a long time the prices were at levels that were very unprecedented.
Okay.
And then only came down here in the last month when the list of participants shrunk finally to 2 teams, and we knew who was going to be in the game. I don't think that's a big concern. The demand generally for the Super Bowl is huge.
Are playoff tickets going to keep going up? Because I know I'm a season ticket holder, and I got mine, and it was big. It was a big. Now, it's been a while since we'd been in, and I don't remember what it was for the Raven game in 10, frankly, but my price tripled. Is that the I know the league sets those, of which you're a 32nd of it, so I know you contribute to the thought process on that. But is that the trend? I mean, the secondary market has always bared that. It seems like the league smartly is saying, well, let's get our share of what's available, what people are willing to pay. Are playoff tickets going to continue to rise in cost like the Super Bowl has?
I don't know if I can predict they'll continue to rise in the short term. Certainly the league pays attention to the demand for the tickets.
Okay.
And if they think they're overpricing the tickets, they've shown a willingness to back off. When we're in a position like we were this year to potentially host a playoff game, we have that discussion with the league. And we're always pushing them to lower the prices, because we do have one of the biggest buildings in the NFL in a relatively small market, and we would like to keep the prices more in line with what our season ticket prices are. But at the end of the day, the league has the expenses that have to be covered from the game, and I think that factors into their thinking.
Clark Hunt is with us here in the program. You mentioned the biggest building. I'll start my Final Four with that. How much longer are you in that building? What's your anticipation for how much longer Arrowhead in its current setup is the home of the Kansas City Chiefs?
When we did the new lease and had the renovation plan done about 9 years ago, I thought this is probably the last time I'm personally involved in a stadium project for the Kansas City Chiefs. Just that I felt with what we were doing, and I think the end product has borne it out, that we were going to have one of the best facilities in the National Football League. And really short of any kind of structural problems with the stadium, I think it can last for decades from here.
Okay.
It's incumbent upon us and the Sports Authority to keep the building in a first-class manner and make sure it's taken care of on an annual basis. The fact that we did that going all the way back to the early 70s was one of the reasons why we were able to renovate it. The building had been taken very well care of, and that's something we're focused on for the future.
When will we get a team in London?
I don't want to put a time frame on it, but I will say the developments there are very positive. You maybe heard today that the 3 games that will be played there next year have already sold out. Which is really tremendous. The fan base is growing. The avid fan base is growing. Corporate sponsors are more and more willing to engage with the game. So the business continues to grow there, but I think we're still a ways down the road from being able to talk about having a team there.
Will we see red on red again?
Absolutely.
Good,
absolutely. That was a great way to kick off the season. And certainly there are the right times where red on red makes a lot of sense.
My one piece of advice, because I had to look at pictures, I was like, what's not quite right? The other socks. Go to that's my tip. See, yeah.
Okay.
I was looking at the teams like when Carolina goes black on black, they still kind of have the black socks as opposed to the white tube sock more look. So there's my tip. I know you'll take that and file that in the garbage probably where it belongs, but that's my fashion tip. Finally, who's your pick on the game? Who wins?
Well, we always cheer for the AFC, or should I say the AFL. And
yes.
We've got an old AFL participant in it, the Denver Broncos. Certainly somebody we're very familiar with. They had a tremendous season. Obviously, Peyton Manning had one of the greatest years in the history of the league at the quarterback position. So I'm going to go with our division rivals, the Broncos.
Very good. Mr. Hunt, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Enjoy your time here this weekend. Get a lot of great ideas for our Super Bowl in Kansas City.
Absolutely. Will do. Great being on with you.
Sounds great. Thanks. Clark Hunt, the chairman of the board, CEO of the Kansas City Chiefs.